that supported us in getting into positions of leadership. How have you supported a woman or a peer into getting ahead in politics or in business?
Absolutely. Good evening.
Good evening.
How are we doing, everybody?
This mic is on.
Is it on?
What up, though? Okay. Does that work? Trying a non-professional way of getting it going. It's wonderful to be here. It's a blessing to be here, and we don't take it lightly at all. And I thank you for the opportunity to be here in this way. Look, this is my upbringing. I'm real clear as someone who grew up in the Bronx with a remarkable mom who led our household, someone as a person of faith, that at the end of the day, our cities, our country, our communities are better when women are in leadership and in charge, plain and simple, full stop. And so when we think about that in every aspect, my chief of staff who's here, Sabrina Filson, who demonstrates the consistent legacy we've had of women in our own team, our previous chief of staff, Brittany Whaley, before that, Crystal Zamora. In that manner, we surround ourselves with leadership in the local aspect. Chantel Jackson, who I see is here right now, is someone, subtle pressure. We're trying to encourage her to run for office, so everybody should encourage her to go run for office right there, right? Exactly right. So it's about showing up and being present. And so, looking at the ways we've been doing this, I'm a co-chair for the New Leaders Council, which many of you know has been focused on training the next generation of progressive leaders in this space. Overwhelmingly, about 63% of our latest class were women in that manner, and to demonstrate how do we make sure we amplify and promote in that way. How do you find ways to support different efforts itself, whether it be Emerge, whether it be Run for Something, whether it be the Collective, whether it be Latino Victory Fund, where we found different aspects to make sure that women are at the table through our efforts and supporting in that way. And so this is not new for me, it's not new for us. If we want our policies to change, we want our communities to be better, we have to make sure that we're supporting women in all aspects. We need to make sure we're supporting our women to be running for office. We need more women to be campaign managers and chiefs of staff and press secretaries and communications directors and policy directors. If we want to change the dynamic, we have to make sure that's happening in that way. Lastly, when we see the effort in that manner, make sure to use a flash. I'm a dark brother up here. Make sure when you take that picture, you can actually see what's going on. I don't want them to be confused. Who is that sitting up there right now? Right? When we do these pieces, look at our work. When we spoke, I had the honor to speak at the Women's March this year that was in Las Vegas, the National March for this year, a continuation from last year. When you see the work from Bob Bland, Tamika Mallory, and Carmen Perez and Linda Sarsour, why was it so successful? Because it wasn't just about one day. It was the next 100 days of 10 actions that happened, and so our support of continuing that momentum in that manner. So we've been doing this, but we have to do this more. We can't allow this moment to be a moment, it has to be a consistent movement.
So we'll take a moment to recognize some of the great successes that have happened last week. We had a number of women and minorities who were elected to office, which is spectacular, but we still have a long way to go. And not to put a damper, but to be a realist around some of this rhetoric, there's this term, the glass cliff, where women are oftentimes put into positions of leadership, into companies and situations that are failing, and thus are set up to fail themselves. Is this that type of situation, or are we seeing a big shift in the tide here?
Oh, absolutely not. Women are going to thrive and succeed, no question about that. You look at Michigan as a perfect example, where you have women that won all across the board, and governor, secretary of state, etc. 3 of my personal friends were elected to Congress in Michigan. Rashida Tlaib, who was on our team in 2008, Alyssa Slotkin, who was in the administration while I was working at the White House, she was at CIA, and Haley Stevens, who was the person that was overseeing the oil recovery efforts in that manner. That's exactly the kind of people that I want to be in Congress right now. And I do not believe and will not accept the notion that typically happens, that when women and people of color get into a space and all of a sudden something's going to go wrong. No, that's when things go right. We are exactly the ones that have to be in these positions of power and move the needle what's happening. Emily's List had a perfect data point last year. The year before midterm election, typically, about 921 women have reached out to Emily's List to want to run for office. They conveyed before the midterm, they had to expand their capacity multiple times because it was 40,000. That shows the difference between activity and progress of the movement that was happening. You know, I'm one of the vice chairs of the Democratic National Committee. I can talk about how I spent the last 19 months going around the country to make sure that we have women get elected to office everywhere. Brian Lyles in Charlotte, Keisha Lance Bottoms in Atlanta, Sheila Oliver, Lieutenant Governor of New Jersey, Monica Dinger in the state of Washington. Because we had Monica Dinger get elected, we took back state senate in the state of Washington and moved the needle in that aspect. When you see what we've been able to do, we've been supportive in that manner. So I absolutely reject the notion that when women are in positions of power when it comes to electoral office, that things are not going to go right. Absolutely not. It's going to be even better. And again, look at what we've been able to do. You know, I managed the campaign for Mr. John in 2013. We've been able to mobilize and empower women in many aspects. But this is an opportunity for us to change the game. We are going into an environment in 2019. This is totally different terrain, where we have the state assembly, we have the state senate, we have the governor's seat, we have this energy when it comes to Congress. This is exactly when we have to change policies that matter for all of us. So when we're talking about what's happening for minority women-owned businesses, this is the opportunity to move forward on that. This is an opportunity to codify Roe v. Wade in the state, so we are prepared for that, what's going on in the federal level. When you look at the nonsense that's going on from Trump administration and the Supreme Court, this is the opportunity for us to move forward in these aspects in the state component, not just the federal component, but move forward in that manner, and also in the city aspect as well. When you saw what Tish James was able to do when it came to equity, when you saw what Tish was able to do around bad landlords, it matters when you had positions of power where women were there, and that's the reason why we have to have more women that are running for office and getting elected to office.
Well, on that point, we have a few hundred people watching on live stream right now, so we're all over the country.
Nervous or something right now?
No. But what I want to hear is,
You're not supposed to be looking at the camera directly.
look at the camera, wave, say hi.
Hello,
Live
camera.
stream.
Hi, everybody on live stream.
No, what my question is, you're talking about what we've been able to accomplish on the city and state level, and absolutely in New York City. Tish James, who's now the Attorney General of New York. She's amazing. She was on the Elevate podcast. Check it out. She spearheaded efforts for equal pay in New York City to pass legislation. She's a huge advocate. But what we've done in New York City needs to go beyond that. We've definitely seen some cities on the local level be able to pass through legislation and change around equal pay, paid leave, minimum wage, which disproportionately impacts women, child care, but it has to go beyond that. So how do we make that happen? And how do all of us in this room be advocates for that, be change makers?
Well, if you help elect me the next public advocate in New York City, then we can. This is the same, since you kept saying I'm an advocate, let's just toss it out there. You know, it's about your first question around allies, and asking and assessing who's been consistent in these manners. My primary work when I worked for President Obama was overseeing the minority women business efforts itself across the country from the White House. My main piece of legislation that has been signed into law, as New York law now, is that if a women or minority-owned business that contracts with New York State with over 300 employees does work with New York State, you were to get paid in 15 days instead of 30 days. Why? Because I was sick and tired of women and people of color waiting to get paid. I was sick and tired of the disrespect that happens to subcontractors and those that are in that aspect. And so when we think about the policies of the day, it does matter who's in these positions in this aspect. And to your question about it not just being city, but also state and federal, perfect question around this. The public charge rule, if you're all not aware of this, this is what we're going to be aware of. The Trump administration has up for comment right now the changing of the public charge rule, meaning that an individual next year may have to decide between citizenship and public assistance. It is impossible for me to believe that it will not impact women and children and families in that aspect. When you're trying to decide between my housing and my health care and my home in that aspect. And so this is how that intersectionality matters. And when I think about why we are doing what we're trying to do right now, we are in a moment where city, state, and federal connections have to be attentive to all of us in these aspects. And it has to go beyond what we're traditionally used to in that way. Lastly, when we think about the moment at hand, the number one issue last year, the number one issue this year was health care, specifically Medicaid expansion, pre-existing condition coverage in that aspect. And why is that the case? Because as people start to think about, well, what happens when it comes to the mammograms or colonoscopies or staying on your parents' plan until age 26? And people start to really break that down. They're like, wait a minute. We should be expanding the opportunities, not making it harder. And so again, there's a reason why there has to be that alignment in that manner. But again, more women being elected, more women being empowered, more women being supported allows us to have a thriving progress in that way.
All right. We are going to open it up to 1 or 2 questions, and then